Only I should be seeing the presenter view, not you.
Right.
I'll just do it this way.
That looks good. That's perfect. I think you got it perfect.
Okay, whoops.
Let me, before we go any further, welcome to the Hellenic Law Society MCLE event, Impaired Colleague, Addressing Attorney Competency, the Warning Signs, and Getting Help. We're going to give you 1 unit of competency for MCLE tonight, and I'm excited to announce our speaker is Lita Abella. She's from Southern California. She went to Western State University College of Law in Orange County and graduated there. She's a senior program analyst at the State Bar of California. She's done many MCLE presentations on attorney competency, the lawyer assistance program, and recognizing impaired colleagues and what to do. I met her at the ABA Forum on Franchising. You're in for a really special and important presentation, and we're trying to get on the interactive part. So Lita, I'm turning it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to conduct this presentation for you. I want to make sure that we stay on time because I know some of you have to have other things that you have to be doing at 6 o'clock. So let's get going. This is going to be interactive. Now, I know we have a small group, so I'm hoping all of you participate in the interactive portion, because by doing this, 1, you're not going to be bored, but 2, we're going to learn from each other as you answer questions that I ask. It's very simple. All you have to do is text all one word, state bar lap, just like you see on the screen, to the number 22333. Don't worry about the little dash there. Just type in the numbers 22333. Once you've done that correctly, you'll get an auto response that says you've joined Lita Abella's session. Do not click on any links. Do not enter your name or any identifying information, because all your answers are going to be anonymous. For the person that did enter his name, don't worry about it. It's okay. But that's all you have to do is text all one word, state bar lap, to the number 22333. So I'm going to keep this slide up just for a few minutes, just to make sure everybody gets logged in there into the interactive portion. While you're doing that, I'm going to give you a little bit more of my background. So my career started about 43 years ago with the Los Angeles Police Department. I worked everything from patrol, vice, narcotics, internal affairs, and just about everything in between. And after 20 years of service, I left at the rank of lieutenant. And then for the next 23 years, I've been a licensed private investigator owning my own business. I've also been a group exercise instructor, teaching 20 years in fitness, and a health and wellness consultant. For the past 10 years, I worked in the Office of Chief Trial Counsel at the State Bar of California, in which I assisted in the investigation and prosecution of attorneys for misconduct. The last 5 years, I've been with the Lawyer Assistance Program. And like Peter said, in between all that, I attained my JD. Hopefully all of you now are logged on to the interactive portion. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is we're going to identify and detect substance use and mental health issues among attorneys, discussing attorneys' duties regarding an impaired colleague and how to have this discussion with your colleague, developing a self-care plan and wellness strategies, and then knowing where to find help, such as the Lawyer Assistance Program, which is the department that I work in. First, I want to get to know a little bit about you. So how long have you been practicing? So here, if you've been practicing 0 to 5 years, you would text the letter A in your, type the letter A in your little text box and send that. I'm going to imagine most of you have more than 5 years on the job as practicing attorneys. So let's see what we have.
There's an old crowd, okay?
Not old. This is a knowledgeable crowd. So the majority of you have been practicing over 20 years, some of you over 30 years. Wow. And a handful, maybe one or two, have been practicing 5 years or less. So this is great. So we have, both sides of the spectrum here. So what type of law do you practice? So here you're going to text in your box, if it's criminal or immigration, personal injury, employment, work comp, whatever it is that you do. Just text in the area of practice that you are in.
Are you looking for a code on that or a word?
No, all you do is text whatever, like if you're, let's say, criminal defense attorney, just type in the word criminal defense. See how somebody's like, there's a corporate
And
area of practice.
don't type in criminal.
So I see different areas of practice here. I see corporate getting bigger. So there must be a couple of you that are in that. Commercial, nonprofit, litigation, business, general counsel. Okay. So do substance use and or mental health issues affect attorney wellness? There have been studies based on surveys across the United States and Canada, and I'm going to go through these studies in detail, but collectively they demonstrate that substance use and mental health issues affect attorney wellness. So let's look at some of those studies. This study was conducted by the California Lawyers Association and the DC Bar Association, and about 2,900 attorneys participated in this study. And what we found out in this study was that more than half of the respondents reported experiencing psychological distress and burnout. Whoops. Sorry, I'm on the wrong slide here. 62% of lawyers were reported feeling most valued for their personal or professional attributes, and they had the best mental and physical health. 28% of lawyers reported feeling most valued for attributes like productivity and responsiveness, but this group had poorer mental and physical health than group number 1. And then the next group, we'll call them group number 3, they had the poorest mental and physical health. That was about 10% of the lawyers who believed that their employers did not value them or did not receive enough feedback. So lawyers who work in environments that value professionalism, skill, and humanity over productivity and availability were not only in better health, but also experienced lower stress levels. So another study that was conducted, again, by the California Lawyers Association and the DC Bar Association, and this study came out in 2021. In that study, it revealed that the prevalence and severity of depression, anxiety, and stress, and risky, hazardous drinking were significantly higher among women lawyers. So based on that study, the California Lawyers Association and the California Women Lawyers formed a working group to kind of look at that study, like what's going on here? Why are women drinking more? So this is what they found out. Women lawyers were leaving the workforce due to caretaking commitments, the level of stress at work, the emphasis on originating business, billable hours, no longer wishing to practice law, work-life balance, and health concerns. So this was interesting because a lot of women are leaving the practice. Another study that was conducted by the Canadian Bar Association, in which about 7,300 legal professionals participated in that study, revealed that more than half of all respondents reported experiencing psychological distress and burnout, and the rates were even higher for professionals living with a disability, lawyers aged 26 to 35, legal professionals with less than 10 years of experience, legal professionals that identified in the LGBTQ community, and women attorneys. The billable hours model had a highly negative impact on mental health, but the emotional demands of clients is the risk factor with the most significant impact. Legal professionals with disabilities from minority groups experience higher levels of mental health concerns. And the work-life conflict is a critical stressor and is associated with a significantly lower level of commitment to the profession. Alcohol and drug use among legal professionals are at a concerning level. So what that whole study concluded was that the key skills to build resilience and shield legal professionals from stressors are psychological detachment from work and the ability to set limits. So basically what they're saying is you can't work 24/7. You need to have those boundaries. You need to have those limits. And we learned that since the pandemic, when a lot of us moved into our homes to work remotely, people were working 24/7. They didn't have that boundary there. And so a lot of people were suffering from burnout and, just like I mentioned, these types of mental health issues. So there's many types of substance use and mental health issues that can impair attorneys' ability to perform legal services competently. So we'll talk about a few of them. But first I want to ask you, what are the signs when somebody is not well? Something is not right. So I'm referring to, you're at work and you have a colleague you've been working with for a while and you know that person very well, but you see something is different about them, like something is just not right. What are the signs that you see that you can tell something is going on? And it probably is not good. So again, getting your phones out, just text the word, whatever it is that you think that sign or symptom is. Yes, they start calling it sick. They're irritable. They start withdrawing. They just have changes in their personality. Distracted, absenteeism. Their performance probably decreases. Poor, maybe, let's see, missed deadlines, procrastination. Yes, so you've hit the nail on the head. You know exactly what those signs are. So some of the symptoms of substance use and mental health are, let's look at substance use. Abusing alcohol, abusing prescription drugs, abusing illegal drugs, mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, stress, burnout, vicarious trauma, compassion fatigue, and post-traumatic stress disorder. And those last three, compassion fatigue, post-traumatic stress disorder, and PTSD, certain areas of practice are prevalent. Criminal law, whether you're a prosecutor or criminal defense attorney, immigration law, family law, those are the top three where you're really going to see those types of mental health issues. So let's take a look at some of the signs of substance use. Have you or an attorney you care about, has this ever happened as you see these sentences pop up? Frequently miss appointments, show up drunk at court or for a depot, miss deadlines. I mean, you nailed it on the head when I asked what are the signs and symptoms when you know something's not right. And a lot of it you see here. So you can tell when something is going on. So how do we know if there's a problem? Well, there's the CAGE questionnaire, which is a list of 4 questions that are used as a tool to identify a person's dependency on alcohol. It was initially developed in 1984 and has since been adapted into a variation called the CAGE AID questions, because now they ask about drinking and drug problems. So the 4 questions they ask are, have you ever felt the need to cut down on your drinking or drug use? Have you ever been annoyed by the criticism of your drinking or drug use? Have you ever felt guilty about it? Have you ever had a morning eye-opener, used alcohol or drugs first thing in the morning just to get started or to relieve a withdrawal? So if you answered yes to 2 or more of these questions, you may have a substance use issue, and it's recommended to reach out to a healthcare professional. So in addition to substance use issues, stress can also impact competency. So let's look at your stress levels. How often do you feel overwhelmed at work? So again, getting your phones out. And again, if there's somebody who joined late, you can participate in the interactive portion of the presentation. All you have to do is text all one word, state bar lap to the number 22333, just like you see at the top of the screen.
There's no never option.
Because I took never out because I figure people get overwhelmed every once in a while. I mean, even if it's, you know, every 6 months, once a year, there's always going to be a time in one's life. Maybe when you're in trial, you know, that during that time period, it may feel overwhelming. And for different people, it could be different things. For some, maybe it's just, you know, a little bit of stress or anxiety. And for others, it could be, you know, huge amount. So I'm glad here that the majority of you, it's only occasionally and it's not every day or weekly. So for the ones that are weekly, we need to work on that. So I will be talking about wellness strategies. So let's talk about the signs of stress. So some of the stress indicators, physical symptoms such as the neck aches, the back aches, the headaches. This can happen especially if you're sitting at your desk all day long without taking a break. You're just sitting there hunched over, typing on that computer all day long. Behavioral symptoms, inability to sit still or concentrate. You know, you may be feeling isolated. Maybe it's eating. Some people, when they're stressed, they don't eat. And then there's others like me, when I get stressed, I eat. So for everybody, it's different. Personality changes, depression, irritability. I remember seeing that up on the screen. Impact on the professional performance, procrastination. I saw that up on the screen. Failure to respond to phone messages, failure to communicate to your client, making excuses, lower productivity. So these are all things that can happen when you're dealing with stress. So how do we deal with them? Well, whoa.
Sorry.
Maybe it might be better to go on mute because we're getting that back feed. How to deal with stress. Many legal professionals are dealing with stress and many other mental health issues. So know that you're not alone. Working for the right employer is a key factor in that work-life balance. Try to find processes that will make your work more manageable. Utilize technology. So there's so many different technological tools out there, from software, case management, databases, you know, that will help you with your billables, with making appointments, with making sure that you're sticking to those deadlines. Other alternative arrangements, maybe working remotely. Some people like it, some people don't. Maybe it's that hybrid schedule, flex time, part-time. Having enough support staff, whether it's hiring a paralegal, an investigator, a law clerk, a researcher. And especially for the newly licensed attorneys, the ones that don't have a lot of years of practice, it's very important to have a mentor, a network, and a support to help you as you progress through your career. So other things you can do dealing with stress, as you see them pop up here on the screen. So sometimes this could be very overwhelming for someone suffering from a substance use or mental health issue. Sometimes you feel hopeless, overwhelmed, just unable to function. And there's so much information being thrown at you. It can be difficult to figure out, where do I start? The bottom line is you've got to start somewhere. Just pick a solution and start there. You've got to take some type of action. That could be, maybe you just need a break. Maybe you just need to take a week off, a month off, whatever, you know, a sabbatical. Maybe you've been practicing for 30 years and you just need some time off. Maybe it's reaching out, talking to your parents, your siblings, your best friend, your mentor. Maybe it's actually calling a mental health professional or a medical professional. So there's different things that you can do, but you got to take some type of action. So now I'm going to talk about a demographic that we haven't discussed yet, and that's the senior and aging attorneys. But first, I want to ask you, let's see if you know the answer to this question. What is the percentage of California attorneys that are over the age of 65? Well, some of you have the right answer. So let's look at some fun, whoops. Let's look at
I'm on a
some fun
conference.
facts.
Sorry.
According to data from the US Census Bureau, millennials who were born between 81 and 96 make up the largest population in the US as of 2021, followed by my generation, which are the baby boomers, and then Generation Z and X are in third place. So now we look at California attorneys. There's over 265. That's both active and inactive. The average age is 60. So 28% are over the age of 65. So actually the majority got that right. That's over a quarter of our attorneys are over the age of 65. Under the age of 30 is only 3%, and 40% of our attorneys are female. But yet we're seeing more and more leaving the practice of law. So let's take a look at this video here that's going to discuss very briefly about mild cognitive impairment.
Inability to remember a name or asking yourself, why did I enter this room, is often dismissed as normal aging, but it could be something more. It could be an early sign of Alzheimer's disease. They're known as baby boomers, people born post-World War II between 1946 and 1964. As many of them continue to age, they may find they're less mentally sharp. While that's often a normal sign of aging, it could also be something doctors call mild cognitive impairment, or MCI. 1 in 7 American adults has it.
Mild cognitive impairment really has gaps in memory or thinking that go beyond the normal aging process. This could be forgetting conversations or having a hard time finding your way around a familiar place.
The 2022 Alzheimer's Disease Facts and Figures report reveals troubling findings. 57% of Americans would wait until they had symptoms of memory problems for a while before seeking help.
I just wanted to ask you some questions.
The report also finds half of primary care physicians do not feel comfortable making a diagnosis when doing so is considered critical.
It really starts with figuring out, do you have MCI, and also what's the cause? Because there are a number of possible causes, and some of those are treatable. It could be depression or side effects of some medications, even sleep apnea.
But MCI can also be a result of early onset Alzheimer's or other dementias, which occur in roughly 10 to 15% of people with MCI.
One of the most important things is to really get an accurate diagnosis and to get a referral to a specialist for the additional testing needed for that diagnosis.
A diagnosis that Davin says is better sooner rather than later.
Early detection is the key to good quality of life and planning.
The Alzheimer's Association operates a 24/7 helpline in more than 200 languages to get the discussion started about memory loss concerns. Head to pahomepage.com for more about that and the annual Alzheimer's Facts and Figures report.
With our population as we get older, thing is stuck here. 1 second. There. Okay. It usually starts with mild cognitive impairment. Then it can go to dementia, and then to Alzheimer's. So what is dementia? It's triggered by a loss of brain function that can affect memory, thinking, language, judgment, behavior. A person may not be able to do their normal activities, such as getting dressed or eating. They may be quick to anger or forget things they just learned. And this is interesting. The American Academy of Neurology estimates that 10% of people over the age of 65 have some form of dementia. And up to 50% over the age of 85 experience dementia. It's caused by changes in the brain that happen over time. So then what's Alzheimer's? This is a form of dementia. And as you look at the screen here, you're going to see some of the signs and symptoms are very similar to what I just mentioned in dementia, which is also still very similar to what he was talking about as far as mild cognitive impairment. So how do you know if you have any of these? I mean, I'm looking at myself a lot. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, sometimes I'll be upstairs and I go downstairs to get something. By the time I get downstairs, I'm like, what did I come downstairs for? I can't remember. You know, I mean, I'm 60, I'm going to be, 64 next month. So it could start happening at any time, which is why it's so important if you start having these symptoms to make sure that you go to a medical provider and get tested. We have a wellness guide on the State Bar website that will help senior lawyers, their families, friends, and colleagues to make sure that they take the right steps if this is something that could be happening in your life. So to address cognitive impairment, an attorney should consider, seeking medical treatment the sooner rather than later, make plans for their practice. If they find out, maybe they need to stop practicing, appointing a successor attorney, have a succession plan, and maybe it might be the time to close down the practice. So we have guidelines and documents on the State Bar website that can help you if this is something that might be something you're dealing with. So having a plan in place, regardless of age, years in practice, or your current health status, provides a path to a clearer future. So this is a competency MCLE. Rule 1.1, competence. A lawyer shall not intentionally, recklessly, or with gross negligence, or repeatedly fail to perform legal services with competence. Well, all attorneys know that, but what they forget a lot is that it also includes mental and emotional abilities. We remember about the physical part, but we forget about the mental and emotional part. So the Standing Committee on Professional Responsibility, they issue advisory opinions on professional responsibility. And this formal opinion that I'm going to talk about addresses colleague impairment and provides guidance on the responsibilities of the impaired lawyer. So mental impairment does not lessen a lawyer's obligations to provide competent and ethical representation. It also talks about the responsibilities of other lawyers who know of the impaired lawyer in the firm or workplace. Other lawyers who know of the impaired lawyer's conduct have an obligation to take steps to protect the client and ensure that the impaired lawyer complies with the rules of professional conduct and the State Bar Act. It also talks about the responsibilities of the subordinate lawyer. If an ethical violation is going on, the subordinate lawyer has an obligation to take reasonable, remedial measures to try to correct the violation and protect the client from harm. And then also the responsibilities of the managerial or supervising attorneys, which everyone thinks, oh, let's let it all fall on them. A lawyer possesses managerial authority within a law firm where the impaired lawyer practices is responsible for the other lawyer's violations of the rules of professional conduct or the State Bar Act. So this formal opinion provides detailed information on the duties of all the lawyers that know about that impaired lawyers. And it provides a factual scenario for a small firm setting or a large firm setting. Every attorney, including an associate, must exercise professional judgment in the best interest of their clients and must take steps necessary to assure competent representation of the client. So what do you do if you're in this situation? So we have a hypo here. In this hypo, there are only 2 attorneys in a small firm, you and your supervising attorney. Now, I know for those of you who've been practicing for 20 years or more, you're probably thinking that, that's not me. Well, just pretend, just for this little hypo. There's only 2 of you and you're the subordinate attorney. So you've observed the impaired attorney appear to be confused. He's missed client meetings without any explanation. So numerous messages have been left for him and he's failed to communicate with the client. He's discussed facts and strategies that obviously do not apply to the client's matter. Failed to communicate a settlement offer to the client. So you noticed all this, you observed all this, and you sat down, which was really hard as a subordinate attorney, and raised these ethical issues with the impaired lawyer. And he denied everything. He said he doesn't have any problems, and basically, you need to mind your own business. And he admonished you and told you not to discuss anything with the client. So now you're thinking, oh my God, what do I do? Well, let's look at some possible violations that the impaired lawyer committed. Dealing with competency and diligence when he was appearing confused, discussing the wrong facts and strategies, maybe he violated these rules. Communications with clients, failing to return those phone calls, violation there. Failed to communicate that settlement offer, violation there. And then as far as declining or terminating representation, a lawyer should not continue to represent a client if the lawyer's mental condition renders it unreasonably difficult to carry out representation effectively. So maybe he has a duty there. If his mental status is not up to par where he can competently still represent this client. So might be a violation there. And then here he is, there's only 2 attorneys in this law firm. He's supposed to be mentoring the subordinate attorney, training that person, teaching, etc. Well, how can he do that if he's the impaired lawyer? So what should that subordinate attorney do? Well, here's some recommendations. The subordinate attorney must take reasonable remedial measures. The subordinate attorney will need to communicate with the client the significant developments and other important information that's happening with the case so that the client can make his or her own informed decisions on what to do. The subordinate lawyer will need to let the client know that the impaired lawyer is unable to continue as counsel on the client's matter. Also, let the client know that the impaired lawyer failed to communicate a settlement offer. And the subordinate lawyer will need to let the client know that here are some possible.
I'm listening to this.
I need to put this.
If you could please mute your mic, we can hear your conversation.
Oh, listen to Ron Paul.
Can you please mute your mic because we can hear your conversation?
Hey, Jim, that they're talking to you.
Yeah, I got it. Sorry.
The subordinate lawyer will have to let the client know there's other options that the client has.
With my phone. Hold on. I left my phone there.
Can you please mute?
Put the mute button on, Jim?
Okay. Will do.
It's in the lower left corner, Jim.
Okay.
But who's the host? Because the host can force a mute down on a user.
Isn't the that person there? The other
Stuart may have left us.
okay, hold on. I gotta stop all this to figure that out. Who's the person that's talking? So I know.
Jim, I think he muted himself. Jim Fortinas. I don't hear him anymore. So maybe,
I don't hear him, but the mute icon is not showing.
Okay.
I think if you go to participants and pull up his name, you can probably then click on mute on him
Okay, stand by.
down at the bottom where it
Okay, I think I was able to.
Yeah, you're all set.
Okay,
you're good.
let me get back into here. Okay, I went through this. So I was at the subordinate lawyer may seek guidance, have a confidential communication with the ethics hotline or the lawyer assistance program for guidance as to how to handle the situation. So the opinion provides much more detailed information on the attorney's responsibilities regarding an impaired lawyer. And it's also one of the handouts that you should have been provided for this presentation. This opinion is only advisory. So just wanted to let you know about that. So now let's talk about, here you are at work and maybe you have that coworker that you want to have that talk with because you notice something is wrong, something is going on, their personality is different, but you don't really know like what to say. Even though you're seeing the warning signs, the person's been upset, they smell like alcohol, they're always looking tired, and you feel that something's not right. So the first thing you want to do is find out, does your employer have an established policy, and be guided by that policy. Analyze your own biases and stereotypes first before you have the conversation. Discuss specific events that you observed with that coworker. Have resources available to provide to the person, such as the lab resources that I've given you as a handout and the lab flyer. Listen to what the person is telling you as you have this discussion, and then be prepared for defensiveness, because a lot of times people who are in these situations are in denial. So conversation starters is how to get this conversation started. You can say something like, it sounds like you've been going through a difficult time. What can I do to support you? Although there may be things out of my control to change, I'd like to problem solve and support you in ways that I can. Or is there anything I can do to make you feel supported? Or talk me through some of your concerns. So these are just some suggestions for conversation starters. What could happen if an attorney doesn't get help? Well, let's say the attorney gets, really starts suffering from stress and anxiety, depression. They start drinking. They get arrested, prosecuted, convicted. Now they got to worry about a criminal matter, a disciplinary matter with the state bar. The ultimate is, what if they got into a DUI traffic accident and killed somebody? That would be horrendous. So this is why I'm here. We don't want these things to happen. So we want people to know that there's resources out there. We're going to take a look at this video. It's a very powerful video that talks about suicide. If that's something that could be a trigger for you, you feel free to leave for the next 5.5 minutes.
The first time I tried to kill myself, I was 16 years old.
My name is Terry Tottenham. As I was nearing my 60th birthday, I faced a personal and professional crisis that drove me into a deep depression and caused me to consider and look at my long history of alcohol abuse.
My name is Tracy Franklin Squires. I'm an assistant district attorney, and I'd like to tell the story of my family's loss of my brother Donald to suicide.
I'm Terry Bentley Hill. I'm a criminal defense attorney from Dallas, Texas, and I am a survivor of suicide. I am not a survivor just once, I'm a survivor twice. My first husband took his life 25 years ago, and then 9 years later, my precious youngest daughter, who was 14 years old, also took her life.
My name is Ann Ritchie. I have bipolar disorder, and I'm a suicide attempt survivor.
My name is Kyrie Cameron, and my life has been significantly affected by suicide and depression.
My name is Sally Conway. I'm the executive director of the Grace Lawn Car Foundation. Brian was a huge part of my life growing up from the time I was little until I was an adult. He was an extremely involved stepfather. He even coached my elementary school soccer team. 4 years ago, this November, we lost Brian tragically a week after we lost my youngest sister, Grace, to suicide. We lost Brian to an overdose.
I'm Erica Gregg. I've been practicing law since 2001, and I absolutely loved my work. It was exciting, it was challenging, it was adventurous, but along with the challenges and adventure came depression and anxiety. And 10 years ago, on Mother's Day, I attempted to take my own life.
I'm Chris Ritter, and I'm the director of the Texas Lawyers Assistance Program. And I can't tell you how much it means to me today to share with you some life-saving information about depression and suicide. Depression is the biggest problem that we face as attorneys. And if we don't know how to take care of it, how to recognize it, it can lead to death by suicide. Anxiety is something that attorneys face every day. Anxiety over time, if we don't know how to take care of ourselves, can lead to depression. And if we don't know what to do or how to recognize depression, we can get into a serious problem.
I have a friend who attempted suicide when he was 17 years old. And he jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, and he survived to tell the story. And so I said, Kevin, what were you thinking? And he said, oftentimes when a person is suicidal, they'll make a pact with themselves. If this happens today, I won't die today. Might die tomorrow, but I won't die today. And he told me his entire day, the day he decided to die, he went through the entire day of interacting with people. He was sobbing, hugging his father for the last time, he thought, getting on a bus crowded with people, and he was crying and nobody asked him, are you okay? Getting to the bridge and a lady walking up to him, and instead of asking, are you okay? She hands him a camera and says, take my picture. And he said, yeah, sure, I'll take your picture. And he jumped. But the thing he told me is that if one person had asked him if he was okay, he would not have jumped. And again, I also have to say that the minute he jumped, he regretted it. And he said the saddest thing in the 4 seconds it took for him to hit the water is that he was going to die, and his family did not know that he wanted to live. He regretted it the minute he jumped. So the minute he told me that, I thought, we have to stop minding our own business. We have to ask the question, are you okay? Even if it's a total stranger, I walk through that courthouse and it's not a happy place. If there's somebody on the bench crying, I will stop, because I remember what he said. If one person had asked me if I was okay, he wouldn't have taken his life. He wouldn't have jumped.
So no, suicide is not a subject anybody wants to talk about or discuss, but it's something that we need to talk about and discuss because it's happening in our communities, in our cities, in our state, across the nation with legal professionals. So what are your thoughts on this subject? So again, getting your phones out just talks what, what impact watching this video had on you. Any thoughts that came up? Okay, so speak up meant, I didn't know if that meant that I needed to speak up, like speak up louder. You're saying speak up, like talk about these issues. Okay, concerning, empathy, sad, yes, yes. So hopefully this is a conversation starter. This is something that you can go back to in your firm, agency, organization, wherever it is that you work, and have these conversations about what's going on with legal professionals as far as substance use, mental health issues, suicide, etc. It's disturbing and saddening to think that this can be any of my colleagues or friends. It's serious. Speak up to the persons who need support. Yes. So now I'm going to talk about the resources that are available to you in your workplace. I'm going to skip this poll because we're running a little behind and I want to make sure we stay on schedule. The ABA has a well-being toolkit for legal employers. So if you don't have a well-being policy in your workplace, here are some things you can think about in creating one. Is there a policy regarding substance use and mental health issues in your workplace? Does the policy explain an attorney's ethical obligations relating to their own or their coworkers' impairment? Is there a leave policy that would realistically support time off for treatment for substance use or mental health issues? Are there regular communications about the importance of well-being in your workplace? And do employee health plans include coverage for substance use and mental health treatment? So that toolkit has exemplars, explains everything of how to create well-being policies if you do not have one in your workplace. So the study that I had mentioned earlier that was by the California Lawyers Association and the DC Bar Association, these are some recommendations that they talk about. Offering flexible employment, such as working remotely, considering alternative schedules, prioritizing employee well-being, adopting policies that promote well-being, respecting employees' personal time. Professional development is an area where legal employers can have a strong impact on employees' experiences. And then promoting connection and sense of belonging. Attorneys who feel connected to their colleagues, employer, and legal community are probably going to be less stressed about what's going on. So recommendations for legal professionals are learning about the well-being crisis in the legal profession. Know where you fall on that spectrum of well-being and identify the support that you will need in this type of practice. Assess the legal employer's culture and prioritize the well-being of its personnel. So if you want to make sure that you're working for a legal employer who is within what your work-life balance is. So this survey from the US Surgeon General talked about mental health and how it impacts workers across the United States in all different organizations, areas, industry, etc. So it affects workers in their family, the organizational productivity, bottom line for business, the economy. And we all know the last almost 3 years since the pandemic started with COVID and everything, there's been an increase in all these different types of mental health issues, as you see that pop up on the screen. And then it also showed in the study that nearly 80% of workers report that workplace stress affects their relationships with friends, family, and coworkers. And about 38% of those who knew about their organization's mental health services would feel comfortable even using them. So we need to get people to utilize the resources that are out there if they need that help. I'm going to skip this, but this is also part of that study that I just mentioned with the US Surgeon General's framework. And it has a lot of information on here, but you can see it talks about protection from harm, connection with the community, work-life harmony, mattering at work, and then opportunity for growth and worker voice and equity. So now I'm going to talk about the wellness strategies, what we can do to take care of ourselves. I'm going to skip this slide or pull there. So there's 4 steps to mental well-being. We need to make sure we get enough sleep, that we exercise, we eat well, practice mindfulness and meditation. So as far as sleep is concerned, sleep is so very important. You need at least 7 hours of sleep because it helps to boost our immune system. It prevents weight gain, reduces stress. Exercise, very important. That helps to lower our blood pressure, reduces fatigue, sharpens our memory. Nutrition, eating healthy, that improves our memory, puts us in a better mood, increases our brain function. And then the benefits of mindfulness and meditation, that helps with our sleep quality. And for those of you that have never practiced it, it's just breathing techniques that you can do. And it could be something so simple as breathing in for 4 counts, holding the breath for 4 counts, and then exhaling for 6 counts, and maybe doing that for 3, 4, 5, 6 cycles, maybe for 2-3 minutes, can help to, you know, calm you down, helps to rejuvenate, refresh. Maybe if you feel like your blood pressure is rising, you know, this just helps to like calm everything down through this breathing practice. There's apps that you can put on your phone that will guide you through it. So the Lawyer's Assistance Program, we help California attorneys, both all active, inactive, and disbarred, as well as state bar applicants and law students who have issues with substance use and mental health, also personal and career issues. Everything in our program is confidential unless it's waived by a participant or it's a mandated reporting by a healthcare professional. Information cannot be disclosed as part of a civil proceeding, a disciplinary proceeding, or a public records request. So you're entitled to 2 free one-on-one counseling sessions with a career counselor. If you're, you know, looking for work, maybe you're burnt out and you want to do something different. You're also entitled to individual sessions with our local therapist who specializes in stress, relationship challenges, burnout, and grief. And then an orientation and assessment with one of our licensed clinicians who'll come up with a treatment recovery plan for you and try to find a you know, resources that are available for whatever your particular needs are. And right now, everything is being conducted online, which everybody seems to like. This is our contact information. And so you could always call the lab office if you're having issues, like maybe you know of a colleague who might need this help and you want to help that person, but you don't know, like, how can I go about helping them? You can give our office a call and we can, you know, talk to you about ways that you can help that person. The ethics hotline is also another great resource that can give you confidential information. They can't provide legal advice or counseling or opinions, but they can help with discussing issues and authorities. They can refer you to statute, rules, cases, and state bar opinions. So that's another great resource. This resource list here, this is one of the handouts. The ABA Commission on Lawyer Assistance Program has a wealth of information. The other bar is a substance use recovery program. The Lawyer Depression Project is really unique because it's not only for attorneys, but for non-attorneys. So your support staff, you know, they may suffer with these issues also. So this is somewhere where you can let them know it's a resource available for them. It's absolutely free, and they have locations throughout the United States. Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Your employer may have an employee assistance program that you can utilize, your private insurance, the various bar organizations that you belong to, another great resource, as well as your law school being an alumni. So there's a lot of resources out there. So the State Bar is looking for public comment on, they're thinking about changing the minimum continuing legal education requirements under competency. Right now, it's 1 hour, and the 1 hour must be on substance use or other issues that may impair an attorney's ability to practice law, which is what I just gave you. They're thinking about adding a 2nd hour, which can focus on physical and mental wellness, so long as it addresses the context of the practice of law and impact on attorneys' ability to perform legal services with competence. The deadline for the public comment is January 30th. So if this is something that you would like to give your comment on, just go to the State Bar website under public comment, and you can just click on this link and you can just fill in the information to give, you know, whether you agree with this, don't agree with this, you know, your comments and concerns. Here's the last time you're going to get your phone out. This time though, you're going to the internet browser and you're going to go to the internet. So you're going to go to Chrome, Safari, whatever it is that you use. Type in pollev.com/state bar lab, just like you see at the top of the screen. And there's 3 questions. It's only going to take about a minute to do. So again, go to your internet browser, type in pollev.com/state bar lab. Your answers will not appear on the screen. The only thing that's going to appear on the screen is a little graph showing that you have answered each question. Again, it's only going to take about a minute to complete this survey. So remember, you've been in your text box. Now you're going to your internet browser on your phone. I'm losing my voice. Sorry. So once you answer the first question, hit submit and then scroll up and then hit next, and then question number 2 will pop up. So I see some of you are logging in, some of you are finished. Here's my contact information. If you have any personal questions that you want answered, feel free to jot down either my contact information, my email address, or the general lap@calbar.ca.gov email address, and I will forward the question to the appropriate mental health professional. If you have any general questions, I'm more than happy to answer any general questions at this time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Lita, is there a role for a small bar association like ours, although we have over 100 members, in this competency mental health area? And do you see anything where we could fit in? We're not trained in this like you are, but I just think you've raised so many important issues for us.
I think the role I think the role is for everybody, all attorneys in the state of California, is just to get the word out, to let people know, because I'm sure in this group here, there's somebody here who probably knows of someone who may have in the past suffered, is currently suffering, or in the future could suffer from these issues. And just to let them know that there's help out there, and to get that help and not to be afraid to, talk about it. I think that's the biggest role, is not to be afraid to talk about it so we can reduce the stigma. Because a lot of people are, like, well, I don't want to tell anybody my problems because, they're going to call me crazy, or, call me an alcoholic or a drug addict or whatever, So it's just having that conversation. As far as like professional type of volunteering and training, no, we don't have anything like that in our department. It's very hard for me to even get people who have gone through our program to, I try to get them like, hey, come with me to do a presentation and talk about it. And it's very hard. People don't want them to know what's going on, anyone to know what's going on, which I can understand.
I'd love just to comment. In my youth, I had a problem of 2 or 3 partners in my first law firm having serious alcohol problems. One of whom actually later, one of whom after I left the firm, partners did an intervention on, which was good. The other, I'm not sure how it came up, but that person straightened himself out very much and now sort of goes and talks to people about his history of substance abuse. All that was better at the time, it came out well. But the practicalities of being a 4th-year associate and the partner is missing deadlines are huge. The practical ability to keep one's job, complaining about a partner to whom one reports, is a serious one, and I don't know that there are any protections on that front. It would be ideal if somehow in the bar ethics rules there was an express provision that said that subordinates will be protected against adverse job actions based upon their taking action with respect to impairment of a superior. To me, that is one of the hugest practical issues out there.
Well, I'm sure you've heard that there's I can't remember what politician it is, but they want to try to change the rules of professional conduct. So because California is the only state, well, I don't know if it's the only state, but one of the states where you don't snitch, on each other. Whereas, the ABA rules, there's mandatory, you have to report if you know of misconduct, where in California, it's I believe it's the May, and I'm not giving legal advice here because I am
I'm not taking it. No.
There's a lot of changes coming ahead right now with this area. And yeah, a lot of times people are saying, well, just like you said, a 4-year associate is not going to roll over on their partner. But so, what are the options? 1, quit. 2, let the partner run the firm into the ground, or get you in trouble. I mean, at some point you gotta do something.
Well, that's why, and you see, let's back up for a second and talk about anxiety and stress, because I don't think it's unique to the law profession. I think it's endemic right now for much bigger societal reasons. In the law profession, one of the sources of anxiety and stress is people coming out of law school with $250,000 in student loans, and they cannot lose their job, or they fear losing their job. To me, the fastest way to fix this issue is to say it is an unethical practice for a law firm to take an adverse employment action against a person for raising the question of substance-based impairment. If you make it an obligation, now that's another source of stress. What we need is a protection for that.
I agree with you 110%. As a matter of fact, I don't want to use I'll just use it. My son just graduated from law school. He's got $320,000 in student loan debt. He a firm who his last name is not the same as mine, so you can't look him up. He was working for a firm where it just so many things were happening, and I was like, oh my God, you're going to have a state bar complaint, malpractice. I mean, it was just awful. And I'm like, quit before it's too late.
Yeah.
And he finally, he was only there 6 months, and then the 6 months he was there were 6 attorneys on his team who quit before him, who had way more time on the job. It was just a revolving door. Yeah. He ended up getting another job, making $20,000 more, and is like living stress-free. He's so happy right now.
Right.
But I was like, this place is it's a I want to say like a bomb ready to go off.
Right.
And I know that there's a lot of places out there like that, but You can't keep yourself in that type of situation.
So I want to shift to, that's a great topic. I want to shift to something I've observed after 45 years of litigating cases is when you go to trial in a case, there is inherent stress, no matter how many times you've done it. There are deadlines, there's a judge, there's opposing counsel, and it's hard enough if you've done it many, many times. And of course, there's the stress of the client who has everything riding on their case usually, whether that's true or not. They really put demands on us. And so there is, in some parts of our profession, whether we like it or not, there is built-in stress and anxiety. And I think the last part you talked about ways to manage it. And of course, one way to manage it is to plan your life and deal with the steps along the way. And you get used to doing that. But this kind of inherent stress is sometimes bombarded. And I don't know if any of the other litigators are on, Gus is on here, by bad opposing counsel who serve documents the night before, or they do this or they do that. And so, I think one thing is to have mentors around and who you can draw upon, or partners or people you can talk to about it. But I think it is important that you start focusing on what lawyers can do to deal with this stress, because it's there and you got to win in this profession and you can't make mistakes. So, and I think the studies show that doctors and dentists are the same way. They are working with people's medical condition in their lives. So, and it's not something that you think of as a function of the state bar and all of that, but somebody has got to deal. And I'm at the back end of this, but the young lawyers coming up are going to go through all of this, and that's without considering any real stress that's in your life. You got somebody that's sick in your family or the financial burdens. So maybe I should get online and comment on your proposal to add that to what we do, because it's a solution.
I would suggest that, yes.
But anybody else that's a litigator and you're facing these kinds, Andrew, you've litigated for years and years. And
yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of bad behavior. And I've been in a field where plaintiffs, and especially plaintiffs' counsel, I tend to be on the defense, they try to monetize annoyance. And I sort of say to my clients on that, I used to have a corgi. Anybody here have corgis?
What?
Corgi dogs. Corgis.
Oh, your corgi, yeah.
Yeah. A corgi dog sheds like crazy and it yaps like crazy. And if you're gonna have a corgi, you better get used to it. And I say to my clients, and opposing counsel is a corgi. And we're dealing with a corgi.
Well, I've always found that it was the defense lawyers that act that way, Andrew.
Not pas moi. Oh, here you go. But part of it is, I mean, my firm did a very good program several years ago, just focusing on anxiety. and the differences between stress and anxiety. And a lot of stress has to do with lack of control, and a lot of anxiety has to do with envisioning a what do you call it?
A bad outcome.
A sequence, a waterfall with the a cascade of bad outcomes that starts with, oh my God, there was a typo in the brief that I delivered to the client, to the partner, and it goes through every link of the chain until it reaches, and I'm going to die in the gutter unloved. You know, I'm going to get fired. Nobody will hire me after, you know, my wife will leave me. My kids will disown me. I won't have any health insurance. I won't have a place to live, all those things. And the kernel of it all, I think, is the stress of the pressure and the fear of the consequences. So we've got to find a way to help people cope with the pressure so that the stress doesn't get to them. And then also to say, let's get realistic about what the consequences are. And that's what drives people to, I think, to substance abuse. They feel that to be perfect, they've got to take performance enhancing drugs. They feel to numb the pain, they've got to take other drugs or alcohol. And my concern is, I just don't think it's just, and our job as lawyers is to focus on the law and to do what the state bar wants. But I actually think it's a much more pervasive problem in a society where it's winner take all, and you're either a champ or you're a chump.
And you can't make a mistake.
Oh, that's it. I mean, one of the best things I ever did as a mentor was to thank an associate because we had missed a deadline to respond in an interrogatory. And she called me saying, oops, the good thing she did, which allowed me to praise her, is she started the phone call by saying, I screwed up. Now, it turned out that she had relied upon a secretary to calendar the date, and the secretary had made a mistake. She didn't start by saying the secretary screwed up. She said, I screwed up. And the first words out of my mouth were, thank you. Now we can solve the problem because we're not postponing addressing the problem. But if people don't have an environment where they feel safe, then everything else happens.
I think all your comments are great, and I'm glad you are having this conversation. As far as the state bar, you know, like I said, there's the public comment page where there's a lot of changes that are going on. Your licensees, you have a right to put your comments in there. Ways maybe to get involved, you know, there's a lot of committees that the state bar has, whether it's the board of trustees or various committees that you can get on so that you do have more input in various areas. So that's something that you can also do. And I know you're thinking, yeah, where am I going to have the time for that? I'm already working 20 hours a day. I mean, I'm just trying to give you some
I appreciate
suggestions, but
yeah,
you know,
my way of numbing the pain is just going and spending time in Greece. I don't have to drink.
Well, that's right. We needed to say, we need to go to Greece for 1 month right now.
No, this is very good. I appreciate all of this, Lee. This has been very, very good. I thought that the video on suicide was huge, and I think it behooves us all just to stop with various people, whether or not they're crying or visibly disturbed or whatever, but just to say to all sorts of people, hey, how's it going? Are you okay? Is there anything I can do?
Yes.
There was a partner in a big San Francisco firm that jumped off the bridge maybe 15, 20 years ago. Dwayne something or other. He was quite a well-known guy. I don't remember his last name. Peter does.
Yeah, I knew him. He was the one that was involved in sports memorabilia fraud, and it caught up with him.
Suicide is not a, yeah, it's hard on everyone, especially when you know. So I've known a lot of people who've committed suicide, being from law enforcement. You know, it's kind of almost like, I should say suicide and people who have died that I've worked with because of law enforcement. And so when I've transitioned into this area of my work, I was just really shocked to see how prevalent it is among attorneys. But yeah, again, you know, this is why I'm here. It's just, I'm not going to be able to solve the problem. The state bar is not going to be able to solve the problem. It's collectively, this community has to solve the problems and, you know, figure out ways to address these issues.